My name is Julia Vasta. I'm a senior analyst with the city of Boston. All of my experience in this field so far has been in the public sector, so I'm actually excited to be connected with this group and learn more about the work that you do in the industry, in the private sector. So really, I think it's really cool that you guys put this group together. I'm super glad we got connected, so thanks for having me. Okay, WebEx. Let me share my screen. I never use WebEx. I can do this. Good? Cool. Okay. Feel free to interrupt me at any point if you have questions. Just shout, and I'm happy to pause. Otherwise, also happy to take questions at the end. All right. Interest in sort of like to try and get myself involved in projects that involve some GIS. So that's one of my areas of interest. And like I said, advancing my skills in machine learning and getting more comfortable with incorporating causal inference into our projects. Those are all the other areas of interest for me right now. And a fun fact about Boston, it is the birthplace of the firebox. I don't know if Syracuse has these. I actually don't know how many cities have these in general, but I've been working a lot with the fire department recently, and they are very proud of the firebox system that was invented in Boston in the 1850s. They're the red boxes sprinkled all around the city, where if you pull the lever on the box, a fire truck will come in 4 minutes. So one of our points of pride.
That is really fascinating. I had no idea what that is.
Yeah, cool. And there's an impressive number of them. Pretty much every block you turn, if you look around, there's going to be a firebox there.
Very cool.
So my team, the analytics team, is sort of works like a internal consulting style team for the city. We're a resource that any department can work with and use. And we're situated within the IT department, DoIT, which is itself a much larger department. And then, of course, at the top of the hierarchy is Mayor Michelle Wu, our current mayor. So all of our work is aligned with the Wu administration's priorities. A little bit about my team. We have 17 full-time team members. In 2023, we worked with 65% of city departments. We run an open data portal called Analyze Boston, and last we checked, it had 245 open data sets on there that we maintain and we update for any of the automated data sets. We're responsible for keeping those automated through pipelines. And speaking of pipelines, we have a data warehouse that we maintain and our engineers use to write workflows and we have currently 189 automated workflows in there. And we apparently committed over 360,000 lines of code in 2023. It's pretty cool. So we have a few different kind of components of our team. We've actually grown quite a bit in the past year. So I'll talk about sort of the four main kind of functions that we offer. We have a performance management vertical, and they are responsible for helping departments evaluate how successful they are, how well they're doing. So they help them identify goals and metrics that will sort of reflect progress towards those goals, and then take that information and make sure that we have data to actually measure departments' goals. And they build automated reports that departments can use to sort of monitor their performance, and they contribute performance metrics to the city's annual budget book, so that anyone who is perusing the budget book and wanting to know how the city spends its money can also see that the city and the departments are holding themselves accountable by having these sort of performance goals being publicly stated. We also have a data engineering team. They are responsible for basically managing the data warehouse that we use. The warehouse is primarily used by my team for analytics projects, but we also do offer access to it for data analysts in different departments. So they automate access to databases across the city, kind of store, kind of have a central repository in our warehouse of data from all different departments, and also from city vendors, so we can connect to vendors' APIs and public APIs and bring data in.
With the data collection itself, so I imagine that your data warehouse is a consolidation of data from across the city. Do you find it difficult to receive that data from certain departments or certain areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, and it's probably like in the areas that you can imagine. Public safety is one where we do have some anonymous data that we use, and it's very helpful to have access to it. But there's of course, data sets from like EMS or sort of medical incidents from the fire department's records, data from the public school system. Basically large data sets that have some kind of PII in them. We don't typically bring those in. Or we find a way to anonymize them if we really need to have them in our warehouse.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Yeah, but generally folks are like really down to have their data ingested, because oftentimes they don't actually have their data stored anywhere where they can easily access it. So it's really more often than not like just a nice resource that people are excited to be able to have.
Very cool.
One of our newer sub teams is called Vastonia Academy. It is a process improvement team. So we have a couple of performance coaches who are specialized in, process improvement and lean, and they're pretty new to the team, but have been making a huge impact already. They take on projects for process improvement. So departments that have some kind of business process that is, they know could be better, service could be improved, some kind of service delivery to residents is taking too long, and the department wants the performance coaches to help smooth out the process and identify areas of waste and make things more efficient. And they also do offer formal trainings for city staff. So we've had a lot of folks signing up to get trained in process improvement, and they learn skills like process mapping, identifying waste in processes, and sort of identifying low-cost ways to tweak their processes to improve their delivery. And then the analytics vertical is where I work. We are sort of more the straight up data analysts. We work on analytics projects with every department. They usually are initiated to inform some kind of policy decision that needs to be made or to evaluate some kind of program for its effectiveness. And we create a number of data products, like maps, dashboards, reports, as well as doing more in-depth analytical projects. An overview. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just before we move off of services, it looks like a couple of people have questions. So first of all, do you want to get into a little bit of an explanation of what GIS is and kind of how it's used in public sector? Because I know that's a big piece of open data.
Yeah. We have a few GIS analysts, and I think we could have even more because GIS is so ubiquitous in everything that the city does. You know, I think the administrative data that comes out of city government, it's all about where people live, where issues are being reported, what different characteristics of neighborhoods are, and so there's always interest in from our stakeholders in knowing where things are happening and how patterns are different across the city and across neighborhoods. So yeah, GIS is basically geospatial data analysis, data that has location attributes tied to it and can be mapped.
And then, so you mentioned you work with 65% of city departments. How many departments does that end up looking like?
I think there are roughly around 45 departments in total. So, you know, more than half of that, more than 25.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. Is there a reason for using lean over results-based accountability?
Ooh, great question. I don't know because that is not the vertical that I work on. And it's pretty outside of the scope of what I do. I don't know that they've used really formal lean. I think they really have developed sort of their own approach from a number of different frameworks. And I do know that my team was kind of inspired by the city of Denver's Peak Academy. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but they run a similar sort of program. And I think they were maybe sort of one of the first municipal governments to have a really robust process of improvement program. So we definitely borrow a lot of the frameworks from the city of Denver.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you are implementing lean in the way that a lot of software developers implement agile, where it's like kind of, but not really.
Yeah. Adapt it for how it makes the most sense within the context of
Exactly.
the city.
And then do you monitor your dashboard utilization? And kind of how does that look with, you know, internal employees versus the public, that kind of thing?
Yeah. You know, we don't really formally systematically monitor traffic to dashboards, but it's something that we can pull up those metrics if we want to know. We were using Tableau for dashboards and are now shifting into Power BI, but you know, Tableau could tell us how much traffic certain products were getting. But that's actually a really interesting point of, you know, how are we making sure that the products we're creating are being used and can those metrics kind of inform how helpful they are to people and you know, whether it was worth it to build, because there certainly are times where we build a product and you know, it probably doesn't actually get used as much as we thought it might have. So great question.
Very cool. Thanks. I think that covers the chat.
Cool. Please feel free to interrupt me too, because I'm not good at WebEx, so I can't see the chat. Okay. So my little sub team, the analytics sub team, mostly does work in these 5 themes: improving data quality, helping departments improve the quality of their data, building, you know, dynamic and automated visualizations and reports, helping answer questions on resource allocation and how to most optimally deploy resources. Evaluation and continuous improvement processes and programs, and are currently making a concerted effort to develop more advanced models into our work. So incorporating predictive models and kind of venturing into the world of causal analysis. There's a real interest in bringing more innovative solutions to the city. Luckily, Boston is a place that I think has a really good appetite for data-driven thinking. The fact that my team exists and has existed for 10 years now, I think is actually huge. And so I think there is definitely kind of an ever increasing interest in how can we bring even more innovative solutions to the city.
In a previous slide, you had talked about, oh, never mind. I was going to ask about data quality.
Oh, great. Yeah, data quality. I think this is sometimes I think of the services that we offer as sort of tiers. With this being sort of the most basic tier, there are departments across the city that are huge and have their own data analysts, and there are lots of departments that are really small and definitely don't have data analysts and might not even be producing that much data. But I find that honestly, for both types of departments, big and small, there are lots of areas for improvement in how data is being collected through applications or through surveys. So my team is there to offer expertise on designing surveys, calculating sample sizes necessary for robustness, as well as really simpler things like having input into what fields should go into a form, and building really lightweight web applications for departments to use that are public facing and are fulfilling some sort of application function where the public needs to submit information and the department needs to collect it and analyze it. So some examples of that are, we use a tool called NAC. Not sure if you all are familiar with it, but it is basically a really lightweight database and like web application. So it's a low-cost tool. It's kind of low code, no code, and it's something that we started using during the pandemic because it was affordable and pretty easy to learn, and you could build apps really quickly through it. We're starting to move a little bit away from that, but there were some really key processes in the city that were running on NAC apps that our team built, and I think the area where we could be helpful was thinking about that database design in the back end. The application had to run on some kind of simple schema. And so having knowledge of best practices with database management and knowing how to design the back end of the data structure to be able to answer the questions that the department needed to answer was really important. So our outdoor dining permitting application was living in an application that we built for a while, as well as a few others applications to host events on city-owned property, a bunch of things.
As you no longer are the owners of those applications, how do you find that offboarding process?
Great question. It's difficult. Some of the applications, the first two sort of bullets here, the building emissions reduction and outdoor dining, those became really unwieldy for such a lightweight app. So those actually were migrated into enterprise applications that the city's IT department now can develop and maintain. So they have a proper home where they have more support than we could sort of offer, and just more robust technology underlying it. So those were pretty smooth handoffs. We sit literally right next to the enterprise applications team, so we could work together internally and migrate the data and the processes. Handing applications off to stakeholders isn't quite as easy because stakeholders are oftentimes not data analysts and don't, designing an application and maintaining it was not in their job description. And if you aren't used to thinking about, schema design or anything, it can be difficult to learn. So I think we've tried to identify applications that are fairly simple, and handing them off wouldn't be a huge burden on the stakeholder. And we will oftentimes provide like the documentation that we have and sort of a simple guide to, these are probably the things that you're going to need to maintain over time, and here's how you do them. So that works well for the simpler applications. But we still are maintaining a lot of them currently.
What does your enterprise team use usually?
It's
okay if you don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
The nerd in me is getting weedy, but
but the things that they are responsible for are like the really large permitting system. What else? Financial systems the city runs. Really, really kind of major systems.
Very cool.
All right, dynamic visualizations and reports. So I kind of think of this as like the next tier up services that we offer, because these are tools that are meant for departments to use on a regular basis to monitor their progress and make decisions. So dashboards, of course, is really one of the main types of products that we develop. We have a number of public-facing dashboards on boston.gov. The screenshot here is an example of one that I built that shows a bunch of different public health and public safety and through-on-one metrics. The context behind this is that there's an area of the city that has really been the concentration of the opioid epidemic. And so it's kind of created a number of really challenging policy issues and public health challenges that have been really, really difficult for the city to tackle. And so it was important to sort of increase transparency into the efforts that the city is making to help folks find housing, address public health concerns. So that's what this dashboard is about. There are lots of other internal dashboards that we've built as well. And then I think what's exciting about this year is that we are switching from Tableau to Power BI and sort of taking advantage of that transition to democratize access to the tool. We could make dashboards all day, every day if we allowed that. And I think we really, saw this transition as a good opportunity to help get folks across the city licenses and to help them learn Power BI, so that departments can kind of be more empowered to build their own reports. Dashboards are not the novel thing that they were, when my team was first formed 10 years ago. So I think this is seen as sort of a good skill that departments across the city should have, and data analysts across the city should have access to. So that is exciting. See if I can read the chat. Processes that you hand off, which are intended to be ongoing. Which percentage are still enforced to hand off? Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely true. Some of the applications and products that we build, yeah, I think there is sort of an attrition at the point of handoff where we might build a product and say, okay, we're going to give you access to the dashboard and you can have access to the data and we'll get you an account to be able to read data from our warehouse, and we try and set folks up with what they need to sort of take over maintenance of the product. But I think just time commitment is always an issue for folks in other departments who are not specifically data analysts, or their primary function isn't to be working on reporting. So I think that's a tough problem. Yeah, and then folks coming and going, of course. Department priorities changing. It definitely happens. I think we've kind of addressed that as a team by basically getting pickier with what we take on as projects. And so we have kind of criteria that we use to assess how high the impact of a project will be. And we're leaning more towards picking projects that have kind of like a contemporary policy challenge. Like the mayor's office is wanting to roll out a policy within the next 6 months, and they have questions about how they should do it and allocate resources the best. That's a project that we are more likely to take on because it isn't just developing a data product and handing it off. There is really a tangible impact that we expect to come out of it. So I think sort of picking and choosing what we work on, and then also, like I mentioned, democratizing access to dashboard tools, so that folks don't depend on us to make products. And if someone wants a report and we aren't offering to make it, then if they really do want it, they will make it themselves. And so I think that will probably cut out some of the products that die at a young age before they really get used.
I got more questions, but I don't want to hog it. I'll save my questions to the end if we got any time.
Okay, so good. All right. Let me check the time too. Okay, cool. So evaluation and continuous improvement. I picked a couple of projects that, one that I worked on, one that I didn't, but I think they're both cool. Getting into this, the project that I did work on was trying to evaluate the impacts that road infrastructure changes had on traffic. Department is still going, but he partners with Waze as a partnership with local governments, and get access to a portal that displays traffic data. So,
Julia, you're
pretty
cutting in and out a bunch.
okay. Let me,
Up until this point, you had a great connection, so I don't know if something changed or it'll pass or whatever.
okay. Right now.
Yeah, it's a little
Better?
like gravelly, but otherwise it's good.
Okay. Just it doesn't get better.
Okay.
Okay, so the Waze project was brought to us from the transportation department because they were doing construction on a pretty major road in Boston. Is it really choppy, or can you hear me okay?
It's a lot better.
Okay, cool. So the transportation department was addressing a busy corridor in the city that had a lot of had a high rate of car crashes essentially. And to address that, they did a redesign of that particular road segment and reduced the number of lanes down going in one direction from 2 to 1, and also added a bike lane. And I think projects like this are always, controversial and can be a tough sell to the public because folks are really concerned about traffic congestion when you reduce a lane. So we are monitoring since those changes were made to that road segment. So we started collecting data from Waze, and we have access to that through this partnership we have with them at, I believe, 5-minute intervals. And the data that Waze offers is, hypothetical speeds at any given time. It's kind of strange. So we get access to, can draw a route on a map that will be saved as a sort of geometry tracked over time. And what the data is, if someone were to drive down this line segment right now, this is how it would take them. And then 5 minutes later, be in a row. If someone were to drive down this road segment now, it would take them this many seconds. So overall, aggregate that up and estimate congestion along particular roads. So pretty cool. I'm actually going to skip this next one time, and I'm happy to, and if anyone has questions, Waze project.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. We are currently going through a major road redesign here in the city. Our cross city highway is being taken down. So we have a highway 81 that goes through the city. And it needed to either be taken down or completely rebuilt. And they're taking it down. And so one of the really big concerns is, how does a community grid impact the traffic flow now that this major highway is no longer available, especially for commuters? So that is a really cool, interesting project. I would love to see. Is there any public data available for that, or is that all internal?
Not yet. This is one of those fun projects that I wish I could talk more about, but can't.
Right. Okay.
Well, hopefully that it.
Very cool.
Resource allocation is the last kind of theme of project I'll go over before I dive into
While we are waiting for Julia, Jerry, you make a really great point. The Syracuse Open Data, like the open data website and all of the sources they have, they're really cool. And similarly to the city of Boston, they automatically update on a regular basis. I think they have documentation about Awesome. Have a great night, everyone.
Yes, thank you. That was great.